Ever found yourself needing a bank account but hitting a snag because you don't have a social security number? You're not alone. For many, especially non-residents or those in specific circumstances, the SSN requirement can feel like a major roadblock. Today, we're diving deep into a specific question that's likely on your mind. Can you open a Patriot Bank account without an SSN? Patriot Bank, like many financial institutions in the United States, typically requires a Social Security number, SSN, for identification purposes when opening a new account. This is largely due to federal regulations like the Bank Secrecy Act, BSA, and the USA Patriot Act, which aim to prevent money laundering and other financial crimes. These laws mandate that banks verify the identity of their customers, and the SSN is a primary tool for doing so for U.S. citizens and permanent residents. However, the world is increasingly global, and people move across borders for various reasons: work, study, family, and more. Recognizing this reality, some banks, including Patriot Bank, might have alternative identification procedures for non-U.S. residents or individuals who don't possess an SSN. So, the short answer to our initial question isn't a simple yes or no. It's more of a it depends. Let's unpack the different scenarios and what you might need to know. For U.S. citizens and permanent residents, providing an SSN is generally a standard requirement when opening a bank account at Patriot Bank. This helps the bank verify your identity, run credit checks if necessary for certain account types, and comply with federal regulations. You'll likely need to present your Social Security card or provide the number during the application process, whether you're opening the account online or in person at a branch. Now, what about non-U.S. residents? This is where things can get a bit more nuanced. Patriot Bank may have specific procedures in place for individuals who reside outside the United States but need a U.S.-based bank account. This could be for various reasons, such as managing investments, receiving payments in U.S. dollars, or other financial needs. If you are a non-U.S. resident, Patriot Bank might accept alternative forms of identification in lieu of an SSN. These could include a valid passport from your country of citizenship. This is a universally recognized form of identification and is often accepted by financial institutions. A government-issued identification card from your country of residence, similar to a passport. This can serve as proof of your identity. An individual taxpayer identification number, ITIN. The IRS issues ITINs to individuals who have a U.S. tax filing or payment obligation but are not eligible for an SSN. If you fall into this category, an ITIN might be accepted by Patriot Bank. Visa documentation. If you are in the U.S. on a valid visa, e.g., student visa, work visa, Patriot Bank might accept your visa and accompanying documentation as part of their identification process. It's crucial to understand that the specific documents required can vary depending on Patriot Bank's policies and the individual circumstances of the applicant. Therefore, the best course of action is to directly contact Patriot Bank to inquire about their specific requirements for non-U.S. residents. Another scenario to consider is if you are a U.S. resident but do not have an SSN. This situation is less common but can occur. In such cases, Patriot Bank might require alternative forms of identification and may need to explore the reasons why an SSN is not available. They might guide you on how to obtain an SSN or explore other identification options on a case-by-case basis. An ITIN might also be relevant in certain situations for U.S. residents without an SSN who have tax obligations. Opening a bank account without an SSN often involves a more manual and potentially longer process compared to applying with an SSN. Be prepared to provide thorough documentation and answer any questions. The bank may have to verify your identity and comply with regulations. Here are some key steps you should take if you're looking to open a Patriot Bank account without an SSN. Visit the Patriot Bank website. Start by exploring their website. Look for information on account opening requirements, especially for non-residents or those without an SSN. They might have a dedicated FAQ section or contact information for international clients. Contact Patriot Bank directly. This is the most crucial step. Reach out to their customer service department or visit a local branch if possible. Explain your situation clearly and inquire about the specific documentation they require for individuals without an SSN. Be prepared to answer questions about your residency status and the reason you don't have an SSN. Gather necessary documentation. Based on the information you receive from Patriot Bank, start gathering the required documents. This might include your passport, government-issued ID, visa documents, or ITIN if applicable. Ensure these documents are valid and up-to-date. Be prepared for additional scrutiny. Opening an account without a standard form of identification like an SSN might involve a more thorough review process by the bank to ensure compliance with regulations. Be patient and cooperative during this process. Inquire about specific account types. Some account types might have different requirements than others. For instance, a basic checking or savings account might have different stipulations compared to a more complex investment account. Clarify if there are any restrictions on the types of accounts you can open without an SSN. It's also worth considering that Patriot Bank might have specific policies regarding who they can and cannot open accounts for, especially concerning international clients. Factors such as your country of origin and international regulations could play a role. While Patriot Bank is our focus today, it's important to remember that policies can vary significantly between different financial institutions. If Patriot Bank is unable to accommodate your situation, don't be discouraged. There are other banks, particularly those with a strong international presence, that may have more flexible account opening procedures for non-U.S. residents or individuals without an SSN. Researching these alternatives could be beneficial. Some alternative options to explore might include international banks with U.S. branches. Banks that operate internationally often have experience dealing with clients from various countries and might have established procedures for opening accounts without an SSN. Credit unions. Credit unions sometimes have more community-focused membership requirements and might be more flexible in their identification procedures. Online-only banks. Some online banks are increasingly catering to a global clientele and might have alternative verification processes. However, it's crucial to ensure these institutions are reputable and FDIC insured, if in the U.S., to protect your funds. Remember to always do your due diligence when choosing a bank, especially if you are a non-resident. Consider factors like fees, services offered, accessibility, and customer support. In conclusion, while Patriot Bank typically requires an SSN for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, there might be possibilities for non-U.S. residents or those without an SSN to open an account using alternative forms of identification. With that said, thanks for watching and until next time.